Okay, so Erie Hack is a program of the Cleveland Water Alliance, and we are a water innovation technology cluster based out of Northeast Ohio. And our vision for Erie Hack is to bring together teams of creatives, coders, engineers, water experts to create tech solutions to some of Lake Erie's biggest challenges. And we couldn't do all of that without our support from the Northeast Ohio, the first solar grant from the Greater Toledo Community Foundation, and several of our partners in and local champions, including the host of tonight's Hack Night, the LaunchPad, the Blackstone LaunchPad at the University at Buffalo. And so thank you so much for being here today, and we'll hear from them in a second. So now just wanted to provide that timeline, as I mentioned, and this is the overall timeline. You've probably seen it floating around social media and emails over the past few weeks. But this is where we're at right now. So we are at our hacking time period. And as I mentioned, right now we have our hack night hosted by the Blackstone LaunchPad from the University of Buffalo. And we have two more hack nights, one of them next Tuesday, which will be hosted by TechTown Detroit at 6 p.m. And the last one next Thursday, hosted by Midstory, also at 6 p.m. So hacking time is also a time for mentorship. And the mentors tab on Event Tornado has been open in that link. And one-on-one mentorship signups are open at the moment. Mentors with availability this week include Mark App, Dr. Scott Hardy, and Jen Grieser. And then for next week, it'll be Mark App, Dr. Scott Hardy, Jen Grieser, and Dr. Chris Winslow. Mentorship will pick up even more for the last 2 weeks of hacking time. And I will also release the Erie Hack calendar in the coming week so that you can sign up through the calendar as well as the Event Tornado tab. So just a few tips on how to find those teammates, to create that team. Make sure to introduce yourself in the chat if you haven't already. And remember that if you meet someone interesting, you can send a direct message on the event chat, which is on Event Tornado or on Zoom. And then once you create a team, use the video call function on Event Tornado so that you can discuss and work on your project with potential teammates. I'm also planning on hosting a few office hours to help facilitate that team building. And so that if you need a Zoom, a Zoom platform, you can always contact me and I can provide you with my account so that you can work on your project with your team. And remember that the team formation deadline is October 15th at 11:59 p.m., which is about 3 weeks away as of now. And then we will put you in regional quarterfinals, depending on where your teammates are from. So if your team members consist of people from Buffalo and Cleveland, then you will be either in the Cleveland or the Buffalo quarterfinal. The one in Detroit, the one hosted by Detroit will be on October 19th, and Cleveland's will be October 21st, Buffalo's October 26th, and Toledo's on October 28th. And then semifinals will be on November 4th and November 18th. There will be more information to come, and it will be on our calendar as on a rolling basis. And as always, just nice reminders that the prize dollars are here and available. $30,000 for first place and $15,000 for second place. This doesn't include the mini challenges that will come on a rolling basis. Depending on the sponsorship, you can get additional dollars as well. Finally, so just wanted to provide an overview of what tonight is going to look like. We're going to start with a moderated panel discussion with the mentors that we have here in a moment, and that will be led by our friends from Buffalo, and it'll last until about 6:30, and then we'll take about a 5-10 minute break, and then from there we will create I will release the breakout rooms where we will have 2 free rooms in case you want to network with folks. And then the other rooms will be rooms filled with our mentors that are here today. And I will be in the main room, but also floating around as needed. So with that being said, I will let Hadar take it away.
Great, thanks so much. I'm just going to share my screen and wanted to just welcome all of you to Buffalo and wanted to introduce my colleagues to you. So we've got Ryan McPherson, he's the Chief Sustainability Officer at the University of Buffalo, Derek Nichols, who's the Sustainability Engagement Coordinator at UB. Myself, I serve as the director of Blackstone LaunchPad, which is our campus-based entrepreneurship center. And then, of course, we have Nate Drag, who's the Great Lakes literary specialist, and he is based here at the university. So this is your Buffalo team helping to host Erie Hack. I'm going to run through those slides and just want to welcome our 2 guests, our mentors. We have first, Lauren Darcy. Lauren's a planner focused on using nature-based solutions, land use planning, and other municipal policy tools to improve water quality in New York State Great Lakes watershed. She received her Master's of Urban Planning from the University of Buffalo. Please join me in welcoming Lauren with a virtual round of applause. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you.
Next, we have Joseph Fiegel. He is the Deputy Commissioner for the Erie County Division of Sewerage Management, where he is responsible for the overall administration and management of 7 Erie County sewer districts. Joe is a New York State licensed professional engineer, a board certified environmental engineer, and a graduate of Northwestern University. We won't hold that against you, Joe. Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
I love UB, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then we will shift over to the Q&A. And if I can, I'm going to spotlight you for our audience. Doesn't look like I have those privileges, but in any case, let's get started. So I've got a few questions for you. Feel free to jump in. You decide who'd like to kind of take the reins. And the first question really has to do with Buffalo is a pretty special place, as we all know. And not everyone on this call is from Buffalo. So can you share some of the ways Buffalo and Western New York connect with Lake Erie, both through natural and man-made systems?
Yeah, sure. I can start. So Buffalo is positioned in a really unique place in the whole Great Lakes system in that we are on kind of the tail end, the eastern end of Lake Erie. We sit where Lake Erie starts to meet the Niagara River. And not too far north of us, the Niagara River becomes Lake Ontario. So this part of the state is, and the Great Lakes area is just this really cool corner where all of the water in the Great Lakes eventually flows through. You know, it's kind of the natural systems. Buffalo is a pretty urbanized area. There's, you know, a large reach of urban development and then sprawl. And so there's a lot of built infrastructure, water infrastructure that's tying into those systems as well. So there's obviously the existing system and then all of the man-made waterworks and water systems that connect our city into the water. And Joe can speak to that much more than I can.
Well, and just to I guess further that a little bit, you know, yes, I did go away for college, but Buffalo is home. Went from Chicago back to Buffalo after school, and it's because I love the area. My house growing up actually backed up onto a creek, and I think that's really where I kind of, you know, really grew to love water. And Buffalo has it all. I mean, you know, we have creeks, we have the Niagara River nearby, we have Niagara Falls nearby. We're really defined by our water. I mean, you know, I work for the Erie County Division of Sewerage Management. And Erie County is named after, of course, Lake Erie. the Erie Canal. You know, there's so much history and regarding water and the development of us as a city is really tied to that. And you know, I know both Lauren and I got into this because we believe that it's incredibly important that we protect that resource that has defined us throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll add to that jogs my memory of some things too. Like Buffalo was able to develop as a city in the first place because the Erie Canal connected, you know, the Erie Canal connected the Great Lakes to New York City. And it's the reason why Buffalo and then a lot of upstate New York cities exist in the first place. And then the Buffalo River as well is a really important navigational channel for commerce. And, you know, the Buffalo, you know, steel industry and grain industries exist because of the Buffalo River and the Erie Canal. So very dependent. The whole, you know, history of the city is very water dependent.
And even the name Buffalo, you know, no, there are not buffalo that roamed around the area. It's French for beau fleuve, which is beautiful water. So again, just even our name is tied. The city that is the seat of our county is tied to our water.
Terrific. Well, you must have gotten my script in advance because you answered the next question. So I love it. So in terms of Buffalo's history with our lake, you kind of touched upon it with the grain and steel industry. We haven't had a beautiful history, right, with a relationship with the water. So can you speak, can each of you speak a little bit about that storyline and where we were and where we are today?
Yeah, so Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper is an environmental nonprofit that got its start as an all-volunteer Friends of the Buffalo River, which is a reaction to the really just terrible state of the Buffalo River, similar to the Cuyahoga River, which is famous for catching fire. In the 60s, the Buffalo River also caught fire, I think before or after. And a visit from the federal administration to the Buffalo River is one of the things that really prompted federal intervention into the water quality problems. And in the 1970s, you have the Clean Water Act, and you start moving forward from there. But my organization exists as a reaction to the industrial pollution and the industrial wasteland that is basically created from companies just deciding that they could do whatever they wanted with their waste products on the Buffalo River. And that happened in every city around the Great Lakes, but particularly here.
Yeah, and just to add that, the reason why my division was created was because of the pollution problems that were plaguing our area. You look at some of the problems you had with nutrients and Lake Erie being declared dead and all these type of things that happened in the middle of the 20th century, so to speak. That's the reason why we came to be and Buffalo Niagara Riverkeeper came to be, was because of some of the huge problems that we had with respect to not taking care of our water resources and then leading to a tremendous number of problems.
Thank you for that. Kind of shifting more globally, we know the effects of climate change are being felt in an increasing pace. How will our warming planet have an impact on our Great Lake, and what is needed to make it more resilient?
Joe, I've started every other time if you want to go.
Yeah, you could just start. That's okay.
There's actually just a great op-ed out from the CEO of the Alliance of the Great Lakes in Bloomberg City Lab this past week, where he talked about, the Great Lakes are being looked at as a climate refuge, but we have a lot of our own problems and ducks to get in a row. We're not immune to the impacts. And so some of the things that we're going to see are, a big challenge to our water infrastructure, in that our precipitation volumes at one time are really increasing, and our wastewater infrastructure wasn't built for that sort of rain level. Our built environment is very cement and impermeable, which goes right into our lake, and so those increased rains are going to cause some surface water quality issues, and we can expect to see increased instances of algal blooms, which I know is a really big problem in the western part of the lake, but we haven't seen it in the eastern part. But we are seeing it in our creeks and our streams and our urban kind of ponds. So that is something that we should be on the lookout for here, as well as just, increased storm activity. Some of our shoreline infrastructure has been hit really hard by like storms throughout the winter and fall in the past few years. There's, a break wall near the Niagara River has suffered a lot of damage year after year. There's a park on the outer harbor that's had to be closed for quite some time because the boardwalks were blown out. So those sorts of things are going to impact us here.
Yeah, we talk often, it seems like we're having 100-year storm every year now. And, what that ends up leading to is, as Lauren mentioned, is talk about stormwater infrastructure. A lot of local municipalities have either a 10-year or 25-year design basis on that infrastructure. So it was expected that once every 10 years and once every 25 years that you would have situations where that infrastructure could not handle the volume of flow that would be coming at it. But now as I mentioned, it seems like we're having 100-year storms every single year, which means that you're having increased flooding, which causes all sorts of damages and things like that. So the big word that we are using when we talk about our infrastructure is resiliency, and trying to account for the increased volumes of flows. Although it's not as much of an issue here, and a potential for water level rises in lakes and particularly in some other areas near the oceans, and sea level rise and things like that. Those are the type of things that really kind of concern on the infrastructure end with regard to climate change and things like that.
I think that's really helpful. And Lauren, I think it would be great if you would be willing to share the link to that article. I think great. I heard about it maybe on a news piece on NPR, but it'd be great if we could share that with our students. Awesome. So the next question, while Lauren is searching for it, the next question we have is, what do you hope to see for the lake's future in the next 25 years?
I'll start since Lauren's doing a bit of a search. We've made and I whenever I talk about what has occurred with Lake Erie, I talk about what happened in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But then I also talk about the turnaround that we saw in the 80s and 90s. And we have seen fish species coming back, seeing a lot of real positive changes to the lake. Starting to see that backslide. And we're also have emerging concerns. I know some of the things that are talked about in some of the documents for Erie Hack were things like pharmaceuticals and microplastics and things like that. So for me, what I'd like to see in the next 25 years is to not see that backsliding effect, for us to get to the point where we are handling the challenges that we saw in the 20th century, but then we also start addressing the 21st century challenges, which are those emerging concerns, like microplastics and pharmaceuticals and things like that.
I want to add PFAS chemicals to that list. Really becoming an emerging concern that we should be paying attention to as well. One of my biggest hopes is to be able to swim in Lake Erie in the city is just something that is always in my brain. And I would love to be able to do that in my lifetime. I think, we've been doing a good job managing and dealing with some of the legacy pollutants, but there are all of these emerging threats that are happening simultaneously, reloading with different concerns. E. coli levels are a concern from combined sewer overflows, especially in the city of Buffalo, and other runoff, and then all those other emerging contaminants that we listed. So I think my hope, my succinct hope is to be able to swim in the city of Buffalo at some point in the next 25 years, but that's going to take addressing these emerging contaminants, and particularly E. coli runoff, combined sewer overflows, and that sort of activity.
Terrific. Well, really helpful, and appreciate your perspective. I think, the work is not done. It's almost just beginning. There's so much more that we can do, and we're looking forward to hearing about all the innovative and creative ideas that our students in our community come up with in support of our lake. So with that, I'm going to shift it back to Felicia. Please join me in thanking our panelists with a virtual round of applause. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm going to remove the spotlight now from everyone, but thank you so much for such a great conversation. Give me 1 second. Here it is. Okay. Thank you so much for leading such a great conversation.